Love languages. The oversimplified use of love languages often reinforces codependence in a relationship. It's just super oversimplified. Most people think, like, what's your love language? And they throw out a list of ways that, you know, they like to be loved. It's essentially what most people boil it down to. A love language is how I like to be loved. I like it when we spend quality time together. I like it when you affirm me verbally. I like it when you're affectionate with me. That's how I most easily and naturally receive love. And I'm looking for partners, you know, who that's their love language, who that's how they receive love, right? Because if I receive love this way and they receive love this way, then maybe we'll be a good match for each other. This is an absolutely oversimplified way of looking at love languages and often creates a codependent dynamic where I know how I like to be loved and I'm going to use that as a filter for who I'm in relationship with, right? Or if I'm in relationship with someone and that's not their natural love language, then I'm going to demand that they figure out how to love me that way. And we get into this codependent dynamic. Oof, ugly. So let's flush it out a little bit more. Love languages, in my experience, have three expressions that we need to be conscious of and map out for ourselves and map out in the people that we relate with. The first is how I most naturally and effortlessly receive love, for sure. I know that when someone puts their hands on me mindfully, like with intention, when they're present, and they put their hand on my back or put their hand through my hair or something like that, that something in me naturally just receives that as love. All right? So, knowing how you receive. The second part of it is knowing how you naturally, most effortlessly feel love when interacting with somebody else, like giving love. My love language for giving is not physical touch. I naturally and effortlessly feel the most loving in my heart when I'm doing acts of service. It's interesting. It's not the same, right? So just knowing somebody else's love language, general love language, isn't sufficient. It isn't sufficient when trying to filter like who your partner's going to be, or looking at your partner and doing an evaluation through the lens of love languages. So what is your love language? How do you most naturally and effortlessly receive, feel loved when it's coming towards you? And then evaluate how you most naturally and effortlessly give love. What feels best to you? And then look at your partner. Be like, okay, now let me look at how they most naturally receive love and how they most naturally give love. And it creates a much clearer sense of the dynamic between the two of you. Yeah. The last piece of a love language is actually knowing how someone is most easily and deeply wounded. So, for instance, somebody who is a receives love most naturally through words of affirmation, right? You say something kind and thoughtful and insightful about them, and they go, oh, they just melt. They're like, thank you for acknowledging me. Or they feel inspired by it, like, yes, thank you, you see me. Yeah? Somebody whose love language, primary love language, is words of affirmation. I think one of the easiest and most deep ways to hurt them is through criticism, is to tell them they're not good enough, tell them their efforts aren't enough, tell them just to be harsh or critical with your words. And knowing that is super important to having a healthy relationship, right? I know we do it unconsciously, but to flush that out and make it conscious, to know how they receive love and to deny them words of affirmation, to not offer them at all, is very painful for them. And to do the exact opposite and to criticize or tear them down is the way to hurt them most easily and most deeply. So when you're with your partner or filtering for a new partner, this is a really, really important conversation, and it's pretty dynamic. Um, how do you most naturally receive love? How do you most naturally give it? And how have you been most deeply hurt? And is that related to your primary love language of how you receive love? And to let that knowledge of each other be a working knowledge, a living knowledge of how you relate with each other, can deepen intimacy. It's a gift that we give to each other. Even if my way of giving isn't your natural way of receiving, the effort that's put in to acknowledge that, to see how they light up when they receive that, and to make the effort to learn over time how to become more dynamic in the way that I express my love, right? Like, I don't want to just be limited to my one way of giving love. I want to be powerful and masterful and conscious about giving love in more ways than is just my natural way. And if that's a gift, my partner sees me developing in myself, right? They're like, I know that's not your natural way, but I see you trying. I see you. Thank you so much for trying to love me in that way. Now your efforts and your attention can deepen intimacy tremendously, deepen your bond, your sense of care for each other. So that's my 2 cents on love languages.